From one of Australia's former leading homicide detectives, this is I Catch Killers with Gary Jubelin.
We're going to have a hard conversation today. We'll be talking about policing through the eyes of an Aboriginal woman who spent 10 years in the Queensland Police Force, and what she has to say will make people feel uncomfortable, and it is confronting. I have a passion for policing and Indigenous issues, so when the two are in conflict, it saddens me.
I Catch Killers with Gary Jubelin.
Veronica Gorrie, welcome to I Catch Killers.
Thank you, Gary.
Well, it's I'm really pleased that we've finally got to meet. When I started hearing about your story, I always thought our paths would cross in some way. Yeah, and we've been trying to get you on for a couple of years. You're a hard person to track down sometimes.
Yeah, a bit like that. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel? You're on the book tour at the moment.
On the book tour with the second book. Yeah, I feel really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get inexperience to it. Like we've come from the background you've come from, I've come from, and we're cops, and here we are sitting in a studio trying to be media people.
Yeah, not sure how today's going to go, but I think I'll be right.
Well,
and if we're not, we'll get there.
Well, the pressure's on me.
Yeah.
If we stuff up, it's all my fault. Yeah. The reason I'm interested in your story, coming from the police, my eyes were opened up to racism in the police, and we'll call it for what it is. In the police, when I first became involved in the Bowraville investigation, and I put my hand up, and we're going to have a long conversation about things. But I went up to Bowraville to the mission where 3 children had been murdered, and I was ignorant about racism within the own organisation, racism within society, and ignorant about the issues that Aboriginal people face living in an area on the outskirts of town. And it changed my view on the world, but it also changed me as a police officer. Do you think there's a lot of police out there that just don't get exposed to it or don't understand it? Because I went up there naive thinking, well, we're not really racist. Occasionally people will make a joke about a black fella or something like that. But once I realised what was going on, I was ashamed of the person I was before I got there.
Yeah, I think policing all over this country, if not the world, are they have a systemic racism.
Yeah.
And it's deeply entrenched. So when I was at the academy, I didn't hear any racial slurs. That was fine. But then, the first week out on general duties, it's just it's very confronting.
Yeah.
And to hear people racially vilify your own mob, it's really hard to listen to. And as a first year Connie, it was quite difficult for me to speak up because I'd just come out of the academy.
Yeah.
I think after there was also there was other police that they'd been in the job for 3 years.
Yeah.
And they were too frightened to come out as Aboriginal because of that reason.
Yeah.
Because of the racism in the police. Yeah, so I actually think I accidentally brought them out of the white closet, so to speak. Yeah.
It's what I find strange, because people very much became aware as my career progressed, my stance on Indigenous issues and racism and all that, but still comments would fly around the office that were I'm thinking, hold it guys, you actually you know where I stand. You think it's appropriate to make these comments.
Yeah, and it must have been hard, and that was the thing with me when I was in a job. Each and every time I heard racial slurs against my people, I called them out for it.
Yeah.
So I was deemed to be difficult, an angry black woman. But when white fellas say it, they pay attention. They stand up and go, "Oh, okay, yep." They actually listen to you. But as a black fella, I was just a whinging black woman.
Yeah, you touch on an interesting point there, because I've had to, just in my role and the stance I've taken on things, had to articulate issues, but I'm always mindful that it's hard for me as a white man talking about issues that Indigenous people are facing, because I haven't walked that path, and I do it as best I can, but I'm always respectful that it's your position.
It's our life. Each and every day we're fighting the system and the injustices in the colony. To be watched while you go shopping, surveilled by the staff, and you're they've already preconceived that you're going to be, stealing stuff or... It's
Yeah.
terrible. Like, and as a cop, it was very difficult to... I was always asked, are you a full cop? Like, did you go to the academy, or are you a police liaison officer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what? Yeah.
It's confronting, and my other experience in one of my failed marriages, I won't go into, but I was married to an Aboriginal lady, and what I found in with the Barraville communities and other communities, there's subtle racism that comes out, and quite often you could be out and someone says something and the room goes silent because they all look towards the person. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but it's just in people's nature, and that was very much in the police. Like, people would say things, and I'd sort of look and really, you're saying this? So you must have been confronted with that time and time again.
Yeah, and being given that I've got an olive complexion as well.
Yep.
So I would have been seen as a white fellow with a deadly tan.
Yeah.
But I don't know any other job or career whereby you've got, within the first 2 to 3 minutes of working with someone new,
Yep.
you've got to let them know that you're Aboriginal.
Yeah.
I don't know any other job whereby, and then I did that strategically because I didn't want to hear racial slurs about my people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And explaining that, because people might find that's unusual, but I know exactly what you're saying, because I've been in those situations with people that they get it out very up front.
First thing we say.
I'm Aboriginal, just to stop the comments that
and
are
we
gonna
shouldn't
flow.
have to. Like, I'm not asking your background. Like,
No.
I see people as people, but yeah, everyone's different, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what goes through their mind, but I also want to go back to the Barraville murders.
Yeah.
Where I witnessed you with the families and how you treated the families with sensitivity.
Yeah.
And being very respectful to them and the families of. And the thing is, that tore us up as a nation, watching that and hearing about the families of and what they were going through, and still going through.
Still
a lot of
going
families
through
are still going through it.
Yeah.
Right now, they with missing women and children. And I've been, as Aboriginal people, when we report a crime, like as a victim, police can't imagine us as victims because they're so used to locking us up. So, for example, I know someone who's trigger warning, always a trigger warning when I talk, who's put in a rape complaint.
Yep.
And like the investigation, like, I just know police haven't done the work. They said they couldn't find one of the perpetrators. It took me a whole 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not even in the job anymore. It took me 5 minutes to locate this person.
Yeah.
So that tells me that they're not doing the work and they don't take this complaint serious. And it's upsetting because as Aboriginal people, we don't call police. I know with a lot of other people, when they have conflict in the community or their families or out and about, their first instinct is to call 000.
Yeah.
With Aboriginal people, we don't. And there's good reason for that, because we're always mostly misidentified as the perpetrators.
Yeah, and again, little things like that people, and you explain it in very clear, articulate way. People don't understand that. People can't understand what you're talking about. I recently, and you referenced it in your second book, about the federal parliamentary inquiry into missing black women. I gave evidence a couple of weeks or a couple of months ago at the inquiry, and it's frightening, the type of things that. How is it that these victims are forgotten, and really is a victim forgotten because of their race?
Yeah,
but I call it, and it's probably a soft term for it, and I've said this sometimes when I'm talking about this unconscious bias, that people don't even think they're racist, but the way that they receive the information, there is a bias.
I don't believe in unconscious bias.
Okay.
I was waiting for that, and I was kind of thinking about that word.
Yeah.
That phrase. I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
People like you're fully grown adults, okay? Babies and children, they're not born to be racist.
Yeah.
So they're learning it from their parents or in the family.
Yeah, valid point.
Yeah, so you're not. Yeah, there's no. I don't believe in
You have
unconscious
to.
bias.
Okay, you have to.
You
be
know,
taught
as an adult, you know the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
And you just know saying words that are derogative.
Yep.
Is not right.
Yeah. Okay. Does
that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah.
And again, this is from your perspective, and
Yeah.
I dress it up, but I take on board what you.
Yeah,
you're
I
saying.
think with the age of criminality with young people,
Yeah.
is it 10 years old in this state or 14?
10.
10, still
yeah.
10. Right, they're being convicted of crimes, alleged crimes, at the age of 10
Yeah.
because they're deemed to know the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
So a fully grown ass, hairy ass adult
Yep.
should know the difference between right and wrong.
Okay.
There you go.
Fair call. Fair call.
Yep.
All right. Now, I just ask about the books, and we'll talk a lot about what's contained in the book. But your first book, Black and Blue, a memoir of racism and resilience, which I might add, it won, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Victorian Prize for Literature, Australia's richest literary award in 2022.
Yeah. Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who would have thought, eh? Because much of that book was about the injustices the Victorian state government did to my family.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ironically, it was a Victorian state government writers funding or prize that I won.
Well, that's where
it's really good.
Where you're making the little difference.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write the book?
So initially, towards the end of my career as a Queensland police officer, I was diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety and depression. And due to the trauma, your brain does weird and wonderful things, but I started to lose a lot of my memory.
Yep.
And so I started documenting some stuff, a lot of my memories. And not just for my kids, but for future generations. And I wished my grandmother had done this,
Yeah.
To hand down the stories, and also, like, as blackfellas, we're the oldest living storytellers as well.
Yep.
So I wanted to document what memories I did have. Unfortunately, there weren't many good memories.
Yeah.
For some reason, my brain I can't remember any good memories. I don't recall any.
Yeah.
I'm sure there would have been, but I just don't have any memory of it. So, yeah, and before too long I had enough for a book, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you feel, was it triggering in bringing up some of the past, or did you find it cathartic?
No, cathartic, no. Triggering,
Yep.
so... Yeah, very triggering.
There's some heavy stuff in there.
Yeah, and it would keep me up late at night, and I had odd hours of writing as well, due to the memory loss. And so at 2 o'clock in the morning, if I had a memory come to me whilst I was sleeping, I'd get up and start writing.
Yeah.
Because I knew that if I went back to sleep, I would have forgotten about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, congratulations, because I've read the book cover to cover,
Thank
and I enjoyed the read. When I say enjoyed the read,
it's not a happy read.
it's not a happy read. Yeah, let me clarify that. You'll think I'm some weirdo. Yeah. How are you enjoying that?
Oh, we come from dark.
Yeah.
Dark comedy, like.
Well, you got to laugh.
Yeah.
But one thing that the Barraville community taught me was their sense of humour.
Yeah.
Just cracked me up all the time.
We're the funniest people.
Quite often it'd be at my expense, or whoever I was working with expense, but and be able to laugh. And I think that's a good way of dealing with adversity and tragedy and everything else that goes into play.
Yeah, I think in life you choose to either laugh or cry, and we choose to laugh.
Yeah, most
otherwise
definitely.
we'd be crying every day, right? So
Yeah.
walking around like. Yeah, anyway.
You could imagine the Barraville mob, what they give to two white guys coming from the city up on the mission, and the shit that they used to put on us. And it was done in good humour, and the more they got to know us...
You really, what I want to emphasise, that you really earned their respect, which is what I'm saying, and that's not common. Yeah, so it's very telling about your character, really.
Well, it was something special, and people often say, great, the work you did with Barraville people. I got more from them than they ever got from me. Like they taught me so much. They embraced me. It was like part of their family. and they're like part of my family.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful relationship, and it taught me so much and made me a better person, not just a better cop. I think it significantly changed me of the path I went in policing. But
and just the support they gave you too, right? Like standing outside the courthouse and cheering you on, and you know, it's like the roles were reversed. But for them to trust you, for an Aboriginal person or family to trust a white person, it's really, it's very telling. Yeah, well,
it was mutual, the love that we've got for each other, like the community and myself, and I feel part of it and honoured to be part of it. Got me in a bit of trouble in the police when we marched on Parliament a few times, but other than that, and probably a lot of other things. But no, I enjoyed it. Let's talk about you now, your life, and describe, if someone came up to you and said, "Who the hell are you?" How would you describe yourself?
Oh, the first thing is a Gunai Kurnai woman.
Yep.
My pronouns are she and her. Mother of 3 amazing adult children.
Yep.
Grandmother of 2 boys.
Yep.
4-year-old twins.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, they're lovely. Yeah. A writer. I just say I'm a writer. I don't. Yeah. Actually, where I live, no one knows who I am, which is really good, which I love.
Critically acclaimed, award-winning
writer.
I
don't say that, yeah.
You don't walk around with copies of your book?
No.
Yeah. And your childhood, where'd you grow up?
Down Gippsland in eastern Victoria, and then travelled a bit with my father.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot actually. Yeah.
You moved around a lot.
Yeah.
To
Social butterfly here.
Yeah, the different places you went to.
Rockhampton in Queensland.
Yep.
Mount Isa, Alice Springs, loved Alice Springs. Yeah, and parts of Victoria. And just moved around a lot of schools, which is, And what I want to say is with Black and Blue, a lot of Aboriginal people will resonate with much of what I've written.
Yeah.
Yes, but I don't speak for everyone.
Yeah.
I just speak for myself. Yeah.
No, that's important. A friend of mine asked me on the weekend, I said I was reading your book, and how did you find it? And I said, it's heavy reading, but I'm enjoying reading it.
Mm.
And I said, the thing that saddens me, I know this is Veronica's story, but there's so many stories like it.
Yeah.
And as you've identified, this is your story. There's a lot of other people who've got similar stories. I could really...
Yeah, and a lot of people will resonate with that, and the difference between me and them is that I've written about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think by actually talking about it and writing about it helps other people, that they understand that they're not on their own in what they've gone through? Yeah,
because I think sometimes, with Aboriginal people, we don't usually have happy endings.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So I think, you asked me about, was it cathartic earlier, and I said not really, but I think in a sense that I don't talk about a lot of the stuff that happened to me, but I wrote about it, and so it's out now. Yeah. It's out of my head. So I think if I can encourage other people to write their experiences and not stuff that they've never told anyone before.
You touched on your grandparents' lives and I see that in Indigenous communities there's generational trauma that can be passed down, and people don't understand that. I know people when they've challenged me if I'm talking about something, they'll go, but that was in the past, it doesn't happen now, but there's intergenerational trauma that gets passed down in communities. Yeah,
the thing is it's still happening now though.
It's not that by all means.
The youth don't, and that's what I want to with the George Floyd matter as well, in the US. So a lot of non-Indigenous people in this country when they saw the visuals of it on television or whatever, they were gasping and, oh my goodness, that's terrible. What they don't know is it's happening right here in this country.
Yeah, yeah.
But for some reason, they turn a blind eye, and that's why I've always encouraged people not to become martyrs, but just start filming.
Yeah. And
it's not a black and white thing. It's just filming when you see cops harming people in the community.
Yeah.
But also, I don't want to get them in trouble, them arrested, but let them know that you are filming.
Yeah.
And tell the person who's been assaulted or been harmed that I'm filming for you.
Well, it can certainly slow people up, and you've been a police officer and will delve into your policing career, and that's the type of thing that will stop police misbehaving if someone's watching.
Yeah.
But on that George Floyd, when they had the marches here, and I wasn't long out of the cops, and it was controversial circumstances, and I got invited along to that march, and David Shoebridge, the Greens MP at the time, was coordinating it, and I've turned up there. People said, "Are you coming?" I knew it would be controversial if I turned up there, and I ended up on the news. Oh, look who's here, the disgraced detective.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I knew the cops. I knew a lot of the black fellas, and I was drifting between the two. What really hit me, being out of the cops for the first time in a situation like that, how confronting it is seeing a line of blue uniforms lined up, and I'm standing with this group where I'm used to be standing with that group, and how intimidating
it's
it
very
was.
intimidating if you've never, but yeah, and we've been on that side.
Yeah.
You know, I used to do the same sort of work, public, you know.
The public order.
Your public order.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard. It's difficult. And I think that's where I'm not scared of police.
Yeah.
I guess because I know my rights.
Yeah.
I really know my rights. Like, yeah, but for someone who doesn't know their rights,
Intimidating.
it's very intimidating.
Yeah. Well, that's what I found on the day, and it was an inspirational day. I thought it was it was very moving when we walked all the way through the city to a park, and everyone took to one knee, and
it was all timed all over around the world.
Yeah.
They had rallies all over the world.
Yeah. It was powerful, and I thought people would buy into that, and it was a wake up call, and I think some people, it sort of opened their eyes to what's going on, because it was a worldwide movement, wasn't it? From one incident that people, okay, enough is enough, and we're going to stop that. You referenced in your second book, cops are crooks. I think you
when cops are criminals, mate.
When cops are criminals, okay, well,
crooks,
cops are crooks, yeah.
Well, that too.
When in that, I think you talked about an incident here at Redfern where a young fella had his feet swept out.
Yeah, and there was footage of that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and that's what I'm emphasising. If there wasn't footage of that, we wouldn't know about it, right? You know that I've had family members who have been assaulted by police and flogged up, and back in the day prior to mobile phones where they could film it. And when they say it, it's not believed. You know, we believe you. We believe the family members. But unless you have hard evidence, it goes nowhere.
Yeah. And with that incident, I remember, again, I wasn't that long out of the cops, and working for the Sunday Telegraph, and they asked me to write an article. And I knew I'd get asked, like, who's better to write, a cop and someone that understands to a degree the Indigenous issues. And it was I didn't want to write it because I thought, which side do I take here? But I was happy with the article. But one thing that I said with that, because I don't like seeing things escalate, and I knew how the cops would feel if the cop was charged and convicted. They'll be angry and they'll look at it was their fault, and then the Indigenous community would look, if the cop doesn't get charged, they'll get angry. I made a suggestion in the article. I don't think it was taken seriously, but I've spoken to a few people, and they agreed it wasn't a bad way of dealing with it. What if it was a young guy? What if you got the two families together and sat down and actually had a barbecue? Like, as ridiculous as it sounds, and just try and think outside the square, instead of having that division. It doesn't mean that the person, if for the assault, shouldn't be accountable, but try to break down the barriers. What do you think of that sort of response?
So the family of the cop?
Family of the cops and the black fellas come together, because they've done some of that at Redfern, where they've got that boxing. Shane Phillips, tribal warrior, clean slate without prejudice, and it just breaks down the barriers.
Yeah, righto.
Okay, yeah, righto.
Yeah, I have no faith in that, really. Like, I wouldn't be trying. So,
I think
as a copper, as a black copper, former black copper, I was invited to have these barbecues. Yeah. And no one spoke to me and all my family and kids.
Right.
Okay, so I wouldn't want my community members to go to the barbecues.
Yeah.
If they can treat one of their own like that. I was blue.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to swear here, Gary.
No, you can swear.
How the fuck are they treating my people?
Yeah.
You know, and also, I'm trying to move away from police language.
Yes.
But I kind of, when I'm talking to you as a former cop and other former cops, I find myself back in
fall back into it.
Yeah, because it's the language of policing and
yeah.
But I'm trying not to go back and using. I will. I just find myself ending up talking like a former cop or a cop.
Yeah.
And I don't want to use the language. I don't want to reinforce language.
It's clearly, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But you've been scarred from it and damaged from your experience in the cops.
Yeah. Also, I don't want to. I want the listeners and the viewers to know that when I was a cop of 10 years, I was complicit.
Yeah.
I'm the first one to put my hand up. I was just as bad. I was arresting people. I was chasing people. I was harming people.
Yeah.
I was involved in police pursuits. Because someone else's stolen vehicle meant more to me at the time than their lives.
Yeah. So pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is wrong.
Mm.
It's like we know. So a few years ago, there was a couple of Aboriginal boys in Perth.
Yeah.
In a chase with police, and they got out. Well, I think they were in a foot chase, and they jumped into a river to get away from the police. Why did they need to chase? They knew who it was.
Yeah.
When I was pursuing stolen vehicles, I knew who was in the car.
Yeah.
And my partner was doing like speeds up to 200 kilometres per hour.
Yeah.
We know who's in the car. Let's get them tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we were actually putting their lives in danger.
Yeah.
And other people's lives in danger by actually pursuing.
Yeah. And look, I know there's protocols in place now to stop that type of thing where you got to call in the
That's
pursuit.
bullshit. Yeah,
yeah,
that's bullshit.
but you're laughing.
You know
at
yourself,
because
it's bullshit.
you can get around. Around
Yeah.
that. It's going to be.
I think I've written it in my introduction in When Cops Are Criminals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have touched on.
I'd liken myself to a whistleblower, actually, telling people what it's like on the inside.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and can we put up front, because we're going to delve deep into it.
Yeah.
And I said this to you before we went on air that my take on the cops is I've met some of the most inspirational good people in the cops, and I've met some of the worst people in the cops. So we're going to be spraying cops here, but is it fair to say, and correct me if you disagree, there are some good cops?
Sorry.
Don't laugh.
Yeah, keep this in. Please keep this. That's a fucking joke. You had a better experience than me.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Like,
okay, so it's about relative to the experience.
In Black and Blue.
Yeah.
In the blue part.
Yeah.
I wrote about a cop stalking me.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. In When Cops Are Criminals, I wrote about that very same cop.
Yeah.
Sexually assaulting me.
Yep.
Unless you've been on the inside,
But you are the only person I've ever had on Catch Killers that reported a complaint against yourself.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we can have a laugh at some things. I'm going to have a laugh at that.
Yeah.
When I read about it, I thought, okay, this is interesting. Tell us that story.
Oh, so my ex-husband, and that's the thing. I was a copper at the time, but I couldn't detect that he was having an external relationship outside of our marriage.
Yeah.
It's like I thought my home was going really good. But yeah, he was, and it was going on for like 12 months apparently. But
well, they say you're always the last one to know.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he left me for another woman, and so I did some unethical checks on her, and and it was unethical, and not what I should have been doing. But there were reasons why I did it.
Okay, so people understand what we're talking about here. If you, as a police officer, you have access to information on the computer that you can find out where people live and all sorts of details, which,
Oh, everything. Where they live, what tattoos they have on their body, what car they drive,
okay, you were
who they hang with, who their family members are.
All right, okay.
Sorry, whistleblower, told you.
You're diving deep.
Yeah.
But it's a responsibility that can't be abused. But we
It's
know it
abused every day, but-
has been abused.
Yeah.
And you actually did it because you're this jilted lover or whatever, and you want to find out who this girl that your man left you for, and you've looked up her details.
Yeah, but potentially who was going to be looking like, who my kids were
Your
going to
kids,
be.
yeah, I understand.
So that's
Yeah.
the main reason I did it.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have done it. Couldn't sleep, and walked into the boss's office and said, "Hey, this is what I've done." I was hoping he'd just say, "Oh, it's all right. Go have a coffee and smoke, Ronnie." No.
I'm sure he hasn't dealt
No,
with
he didn't do that.
someone coming in to confess
No,
about
he's like,
themselves.
"What the fuck?" Yeah. it's not-
I imagine if someone came in, where do I go with this?
But this is like, so I did put in a formal complaint against myself.
Was it sustained?
Dickhead, right? Sorry, I'm doing this, dickhead.
You
And it
didn't-
went to ethical standards.
Okay.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
I probably should have been demoted, but they couldn't demote a first year Connie. Where do I go? Back to the
get any
academy?
lower.
Yeah, I'll go back to the
Send you
academy.
home.
Yeah. Yeah, fucked up. But anyway, so when I was interviewed by ethical standards, so we're having a darb in the back prior to a formal interview.
Yeah.
And he's got to file the yay big, because
Yeah.
that's how efficient I was. And he just got me at the back and said, don't say too much because I've got to type it out.
Yeah. Because he didn't want to type up a lot.
Yeah, like I started all with loose lips here.
Yeah.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah,
But there you go.
Yeah,
But,
well,
yeah.
it does. It says a lot about you as a person. It
Yeah.
says a lot about your integrity,
Yep.
also your stupidity, I suppose.
Stupidity,
Yeah.
I think.
We tick all those boxes.
Yeah, because I lost so what they did, they took away my OSA, so
Uh,
essentially $450
Yeah.
a fortnight, which was a big loss because, and then the consequence of that is that I was financially struggling as a single parent of 3 kids.
Yeah. Makes it. Makes it.
I
hard.
would have rather go back to the academy, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happier there.
Yeah. No, not really.
Okay. Let's talk about your life up until joining the police, then why you joined the police. So you had a bit of trauma in your life. I don't want to trigger anything. You talk about what you want to discuss, but before you joined the police.
Yeah. So as a child growing up, whenever my father was driving a car and he saw a cop car coming, he'd just say "Drungois," which is our language for police.
Yep.
And us kids would just throw ourselves on the floor of the car and hide.
Yeah.
Because and that was sort of generational.
Yep.
My grandparents were terrified of police.
Yeah.
My grandmother was stolen from her family by police.
Yeah.
You know, so we had so much fear in the family and in our community, and still do actually, with police. And I didn't want my kids, because I was 29, and I didn't when I joined, and I didn't want my kids to grow up with that same fear.
Yeah.
Because I started like I wasn't in fear, so I wanted to show them that, cops can be trusted and all that. And well, I'd only been a short time in the police, as a short time on the road as general, and and I realised that the fears that my people had, my family and my community, were well and truly justified.
Well, let's talk about the trauma associated with, and I've heard this many a time from many people in your position where their family have been worried about their kids being taken off them, and one family was the whole thing was always keep the kids clean and all that, because the authorities, whether that be the police or the mission manager or whoever turns up, might say, okay, I'm taking these kids from you. It's hard to comprehend, but this is
and this happens to our family still today.
Yeah.
Welfare have the power to walk into your house.
Yeah.
As well as police. Police will act on behalf of welfare.
Yeah.
And police, and what I want to emphasise is some of the police that are attending these homes and determining whether that they're a good parent, these people are good parents. They've never they're only young. They're fresh out of the academy. They've never experienced violence. They've never starved a day in their life.
Yeah.
They've silver spoon kids. Like they've never struggled.
Yeah.
And then they come into an Aboriginal person's home and determine that the child is not safe there.
One of the things in the book you were talking about coming in and checking the cupboards to see if there's food in there. If there's not food in there, and that was...
So they used to, the old girls, the aunties and that, used to put empty tins and packets at the front of it, so it looked like they had food in the cupboard.
Yeah. It's...
my father grew up, like, on our mission, Lake Torres, down in southeast Victoria, Bunyana in our language. Yep. He grew up that whenever they heard a car coming down on the dirt road into the mission, all the kids would just flee.
Yeah.
And he remembers hiding under one of our great auntie's dress at one time. Yeah. From police and welfare.
It's not conducive to a good way of living or feeling comfortable or secure, is it?
But I also experienced the same thing. So as a domestic, I was also subjected to domestic violence and misidentified as a perpetrator.
And why is that?
I think when you're in a violent relationship or an abusive relationship where you're being so controlled and told to shut your mouth, and if you don't, this is what's going to happen if they leave. There was threats made to me if I told my dad or my grandparents what was happening. Mm. And so, so when someone does finally come, and I never called police. The neighbours must have, thank God.
Yeah.
I just, and I was so grateful that they were there because I'd had enough.
Yeah.
Getting bashed. And I was hysterical and loud and crying out for help.
Yeah.
And he was there calm, which is part of their tactic.
Yeah.
Strategically, he's all sitting there all calm and I'm the crazy one.
And the cops have come in and gone, oh, well, you're the emotional one. You're the problem there. Yeah.
Yep.
That must have been hard.
It was hard, and it's not the first time. I mean, it's happened quite a few times with me. And
there's one portion in the book, and it really saddened me when I read it because I'd heard the same tale from people up at Barraville, and this is going back only a generation or so ago, not that long ago, but the women on the mission were worried when the white fellas would come in because they would be raped and they put sand in their vaginas.
Yeah.
And that's and I read that in your book. It made me sad when I was told about it up at Barraville. That's what used to happen. And then reading it in your book, just explain
horrendous.
that. It is horrendous. It's
Yeah, and I hope like that's what they had to do to protect themselves. And you can blame like colonisation for that.
Yeah,
because that's been happening since colonisation, and trying to wipe out the black race, and you've got fair kids running around.
So
they're the ones that were stolen.
What we're talking about here is white men coming into the mission and just raping the women and the way
and girls
and the young girls, and the way that they would be protect themselves is put sand in their vaginas just to
and then they get pregnant, and then the babies are stolen from them.
So when we talk about this, and this is where I think it's really good sitting down and having a chat with you, because I've spent so long talking to people, Barraville, but other communities that I've been involved in. I hear these stories, and it drums it into me what we're talking about here. Because when you speak to people that haven't been exposed to that or heard stories like that, it's very easy to judge and go, oh, well, what are they talking about? We're not racist in this country, or we haven't got a problem. But you got the high incarceration rate, the early mortality. There's so many issues.
Yeah, so we make up 3 or 3.5% of the entire population of our own country.
Yeah,
and yet we're the highest incarcerated in prisons, and also in some prisons, the prisons in Northern Territory, there's 100% young people, Aboriginal kids, 100% are Aboriginal children. And just...
It's frightening, isn't it, the figures?
But it's very telling how police operate, and the justice system's flawed.
Yeah.
Because my people are targeted, surveilled, stalked, to the point where they can't even look left and right without being picked up by police.
Yeah.
It's just like, fucking leave my people alone.
It starts at a young age too. like a young age where kids get you get fines and they never get their license because of different reasons, and it takes a path. But you mentioned the figures, and I think it was Jaron Badgent who we talked about before the interview that has been on here. I think she gave me those figures once.
Yeah,
like
Jaron's an amazing person.
Yeah,
and she's been through a bit too.
Yeah, been through a hell of a lot. But she's a very impressive lady. A great guest on the podcast here. One of my favourites. But I think she was writing those figures off because she did some work in the Northern Territory, and 100% of the kids, incarcerated.
Yeah, and also when I was a police officer with the intervention.
Yeah.
I was asked to go up there and work, and I thought, like, fuck, I am. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be part of the system that steals my, that just very same. It just baffles me, like, we're the most surveilled community people in this country.
Yeah.
Also, like, you look at the recidivism rate of my people.
Yeah.
It's very, very high. It's like a revolving door, and it's intentional. It's to. They can't kill us. Well, they're still killing us. So they're locking us up.
So with the attitudes you've got there, what made you want to join the police?
One of the reasons I didn't want my children to go through the same fears I had.
Yeah.
I didn't want my kids to be throwing themselves to the floor every time a cop car drove past.
So you thought you'd go there and make a difference?
Try to make a difference and try to bridge the gap between my people and the Aboriginal community. With police, and try to say, hey, they're okay, they're here to help. And I was so wrong, so naive and so dumb. Yeah, and how I stayed in so long, I don't know how I did it.
How old were you when you joined the police?
Probably about 29, 30.
Okay, so what have you been doing up until that time? And I might add, you were the first person in your family that got through U12 at school.
Yeah, and you'll find, and that's a lot of families will resonate with that. There's always the first. And it's not to say that there's, your other siblings aren't intelligent. It's just that we come from trauma. Our lives are trauma based.
Yeah.
And for their reasons, they don't have dreams. They don't have aspirations. I have concerns for my family members when they leave their homes that they're going to be the next death in custody. Do you have kids?
Got
Do you
kids.
have that worry?
No.
Sorry, Gary. I'm just trying to get you
But I understand. I'll relay a story that I was away on holidays up the coast at Port Macquarie, and I got a call from one of the Barraville mob, and it was Christmas time. And they said to me, what are you up to? And I've gone, I'm just up the coast on holidays. Whereabouts? And I said, Port Macquarie. And they said, great. And I've gone, why? One of their mob had been locked up, and he was on the mission, and they actually called the police because the police had turned up looking for him previously and said, look, he's here now, and come and get him. Not to cause harm or whatever. They were just trying to do the right thing. He knew it was only a matter of time, and he went there. They called me and said, we're at the police station and we're worried that he's going to self-harm in the cells. And it's great you're at Port Macquarie because you can come down and sort it out. Now, the workings of police. Just I wasn't stationed there. I'm just going to rock up and sort it out. Yeah. I got there and there was about 20 of them out the front of the police station, 20 of the Barraville mob. Yeah. And they're gone, great, you're here. Can you go, we want to go down the cells and see our cuz. And I've gone, it mightn't be that simple. It mightn't be that simple. I walked in and the first person I spoke to, I didn't get much reception, and then saw the supervisor. And I just said, Sarge, look, the group we got out there, they're worried about one of the people that you got in the cells. And would it be a big impost if I went down with them and some of the family members, and we go down there and they can just have a yarn, make sure he's okay, reassure him and reassure them. And this was a good cop, and he was switched on and said, not a problem. Look, let whichever three want to come down.
That's a rare story.
But they were out the front for hours, genuinely concerned that if they don't get in and see their cousin or relative, friend, that he was going to self-harm. So I do understand it, and that was very real. That was very real, that the fear that they had, and the relief that they all had once they spoke to him and said, yeah, he's okay, he's not going to do anything. And it was as simple as letting them go down the cells. Now, they had tried to get that done before, like without me there, and they were refused, and that's why they were all forming out the front of the police station that please, can we just go down there? So a little thing like that. But I got to say, it's not something I worry about with my kids, and when you put it that way, again, it brings in.
Did you ever think of that before?
No, but that's the beauty of sitting down, talking with someone, looking at it from your viewpoint, because I'm ignorant to it, but it's something that
Yeah. And like driving a car, and you just know when cops come past you, you just look, the lights are on, you just automatically pull over. Fuck.
It's not
get your license out.
Not a good way to live. So
no.
What was the process applying to the police? Was it hard for you to get in? And this is Queensland Police. We're talking about
Police.
What year was it that you joined?
2001.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I joined. Full interview process like everyone else. Successful, got in. Surprised that I got in actually.
Yeah.
My dad was really proud of me for doing that and getting in. I don't know why, but
yeah,
I felt proud of myself as well because I thought I was going to make these changes, but that's just me being naive.
How did you find the academy?
The academy was hard because it's just like there was only 3 other Aboriginal people there at the time.
Yeah.
Out of hundreds, so there's 4 Aboriginal people.
Did you support each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of them was. So what they strategically did is they put me in a squad with another Aboriginal person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and me and him were like best mates, and like, he's my little brother still.
Yeah.
And he's out of the job now, for the same reasons I got out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that. But did you feel in the academy that, okay, I will make a difference, like when at that point in time before you hit the streets?
No, it's like the academy's different. Like it's a whole, you're very sheltered.
Yeah.
So all you're learning, and it's every 4 weeks you're having exams and legislation and working on your physical.
Yeah. Shooting.
And firearms and driving, which I loved. So it's a different world, and you're quite sheltered. You don't know what's happening. I didn't know what to expect when I first went out there.
Was there any cultural training in there that you got?
Yeah, snooze fest, we like to call that. Everyone was just laying back straight because it's done in the last week before you get your march out, and all the other coppers, right? And the 4 Aboriginal people, we were the ones that were sitting up straight and paying attention.
Yeah.
We don't need the fucking training. These fellas do. These white fellas needed it.
But they
were sleeping.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck.
I hope it is improved, but I know what you're talking about. A lot of the mandatory training, like if it's done the wrong way, people it's a tick and flick. It's not really trying to...
so I learnt so much on the road and not in the first week.
Who'd you get buddied with? Because when you come out of the academy, assuming Queensland, it's like New South Wales, you get put with a buddy that looks after you for
Field
the first...
training officer, which is what I ended up becoming as well. But I was one with a female. Like, there's like a form, do you want to be with a male or female?
Yeah.
I didn't really care.
Yep. Yeah,
and that's what I mean, like, when I talk about stuff that happened in the police, it's not just males, it's not gendered.
Yeah. Well, if you're up against it in 2 parts, as Aboriginal, but also a female in the police.
And a single parent.
And a single parent. You're ticking a few boxes to make it hard.
Yeah. And, it was really difficult. Really, really difficult.
Yeah. Did you think you'd stick it out? I know the first couple of weeks you think, what have I got myself into? But
it was really difficult working with this particular person, my field training officer. But
because most people, they tend to select people that are good at nurturing and training.
She wasn't fucking nurturing me, I can tell you now.
What was going on there?
She was telling me to quit.
What and how? Why? What
she
issues?
Was saying you should quit.
Where did that come from, or what was that about?
I have no idea. I can't speak for her.
Yeah.
So I ended up telling the boss. I said, "Hey, I need a new partner."
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to quit. And so he put me with someone else who was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So I had a different experience. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's an important part. Like when you join the cops, if you can get shown the way by good people, it's critical to your development.
Yeah, but
as a
also
cop.
he was Samoan as well. He was a Samoan police officer.
Right. Okay.
And so culturally, like we're both minorities. So he got me and I got him. So
okay, and that made it easier for you.
yes.
How were you received with the public when you go out there in your shiny new uniform as a black lady?
Yeah, it was good because like when I went to attended jobs when it was my people, they all knew me because I was in the community.
Yeah.
So there was an Aboriginal community health service.
Yep.
My kids and I attended there.
Yeah. So
they'd have NAIDOC week. My kids and I were there, and most times I worked it, and my kids would come.
yeah.
So the community, we were very involved with the community
Yeah.
and accepted in the community, and yeah, and that was really good. But it was good because whenever jobs come up at their homes,
Yeah.
they would say Ronnie can come in, but you Bulliman can't come in.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and I'd be sitting inside having a cup of tea with Arnie, darbing up. Yeah.
I can
And
imagine.
all these white coppers. Yeah, and also like there was like an old uncle sitting on the roof.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've taken me, unkitted and put my firearm away, and then I heard a job coming over the radio, and all these code 2 lights and sirens.
Yeah.
Because Uncle's sitting on the roof, and I thought, fuck me, Dad. It's a whole fucking siege now.
Yeah.
So I just went there, because I was in a police vehicle, but I wasn't kitted up.
Yeah.
And I just told him to get down off the roof. Get off the fucking roof. Sit on your own roof. And but he had a smoke and he had no lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said, Ronnie, give me a lighter. And I said, come down and get it. Simple as that.
Simple things
Simple.
like that. Yeah. Yeah.
And you got all these, like, they're all hiding behind the car, getting ready, like, fingers like, fuck me.
Just saw
Just give him a fucking lighter. He'll come down.
Was there any resentment in the community that you crossed to the blue side?
No, because the thing is, I try to treat everybody with the respect
Yeah.
that I would like to be treated.
Yeah.
I didn't treat anyone any different. Yeah, and that's my motto. That's how I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, we might take a break now.
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll get you out of here.
Yeah.
When we get back, we'll talk about the rest of your career, how you
Mhm.
left, and your second book that you've knocked out, and we'll talk about whatever else comes up. We'll just have a
Yeah.
yarn,
Thank you.
as they say.
Thank you.
All right.